Our film begins with Emile and his father, François, and we see them walking in the middle of the crowd and fighting with each other, and we know that they were going out with each other, and that Emile was very late for what he was preparing because he did not want to go with his father, and he preferred to blame his father for being late for his appointment because of him, and she got up between them. The two of them are quarreling like this, and one man gets out of the car and leaves his door. His father gets down behind him and is right next to him. Suddenly they find the door of the ambulance in front of him, standing alone, and someone tries to open it and hears a strange sound. They try to hide, and it breaks open. When they find the door, it opens and a strange creature comes out of it, half a bird and half a human. They remain surprised by his appearance and are very afraid. He falls on the car and tries to escape. The officers try to catch him and all the people remain very afraid of him. In the end, he manages to hit them and run away. Then we see Emile and François in the hospital, and they talk to the doctor who is treating Lana's mother, Emile. And we learn that she is also undergoing a transformation, even if it is an animal. Even in the past 2 years, a very large number of people everywhere in the world have suddenly begun to transform into forms close to animals, and they remain very aggressive. The police are trying to control them as much as they can, arresting them, putting them in clinics alone, far away from people, and trying to inject them. They keep tranquilizers all the time so that they stay calm and do not attack anyone. Very many people remain afraid of them and keep wanting them, meaning they die and will never live with them. We know that Emile refuses to see his mother again because that was the last time she attacked him and scratched his face, and his father is trying to convince him that they cannot abandon her because she is part of the family and they cannot leave alone, and we will see the doctor explaining to them what Lana's condition is, and she tells them that there is a new center opened in the south and that it is much more advanced and developed than this one, and that Lana's condition is in need of something like this and she must move there, and François agreed to this. By the way, there is hope that they will all move to the south and live there, away from all the people who know them and judge them, and live a quiet life together. When François enters his room, he sees very many scratches on the wall everywhere, and he tries to sit like this and talk to her, and then he asks, I hope that he greets his mother at least, because this might improve her psychological state. After a few weeks, we see Emile, François, and their dog on the way to their new home that they chose. Stays like this in a remote place, alone, close to the forest, and then he begins to hope that he will go to his new school, and the teacher, his friends, introduce him to his classmate, and they ask a lot about the details of his life, and Nina gets up and asks about his mother. It is sad that he is lying and says that his mother died, and he tells them that what is in his face is because of an intuition that he made a while ago. On the same day. At night, a very big storm occurs and the light goes out everywhere. I hope that he wakes up to the loud sound of thunder and lightning and goes down to see what is wrong with him, and suddenly finds a very strange-looking creature standing and staring at him, frozen. The first time François fixes the light, he finds that the creature has completely disappeared and there is no trace of it. The next morning, François receives a call from the hospital emergency. He goes running and learns that there was a major accident that occurred because of the storm that was present at night, and that the entire ambulance fell into the sea, and that the vehicle was the one that was transporting all the mutants to the new center, and he keeps voting and getting closer to reassure that his wife is still alive, and that there are still many mutants who died in the sea and got out. He is a spy, and the policemen are trying to do this. They are controlling him and are preventing him from approaching the place. He keeps shouting and saying that he needs to check on his wife. One of the police officers approaches him and keeps reassuring him that they have not found a cursed body among those who died, and that she is definitely fine and still alive, and that she may remain in the forest after he returns. The house is telling me why he and Amal are hanging clothes outside like this on a rope. Maybe their smell will attract Lana and she will be able to reach them. The next day, we see Amal and his classmates in their classroom with their hands playing with each other. Tug the rope and it breaks apart. Because Amal's entire team falls to the ground and he is the only one who remains standing. He is able to pull and hold the rope alone until his teammates get up again and hold with him, and they are able to win the second team. And after the game is not over, all of Amal's teammates remain impressed by his strength and courage and try to get closer to him, and he intends to go to the party that they are having. But Amal does not stay focused with them and feels a need. There is a strange thing in his hand and he tries to hold himself and runs around the house. As soon as he arrives, he quickly enters the bathroom and grabs the tweezers and tries to find out strange things that come out from under his fingernails. He keeps making noises and crying because he discovers that he has small claws and he understands that he is starting to transform as well, and he keeps looking at his back in the mirror. It is clear that his appearance has begun to change completely, and he continues to cry and scream in the bathroom and no longer knows how to react, and the dog approaches him and tries to guide him. At this time, François stays in the supermarket and comes to Julia and asks her what they did about his wife's matter, but she tells him that they stopped searching because the army ordered them to leave from the matter. He will enter, and suddenly he hears someone's voice, and they know that people have seen a mutant in the place. Julia tells her colleagues that they are evacuating the place, and François is going around the place. It could be his wife. And I find that she is a creature in the shape of a squid, and she is only looking for fish to eat. She is hungry. And when they approach her, she is afraid. She throws fish at them and runs away quickly. She keeps running and throwing anything she comes across at Julia so that she can't catch her. She suddenly attacks her and eventually manages to catch her. Then François finds another mutant hiding in a place, and it remains clear that he is very afraid and it is difficult for him, and he refuses to report him. We then see Amal decide that he is going to the party and having a good time with them and dancing a lot and admiring the swords that are there, and their friend keeps trying them, and suddenly while they are talking to him, Amal feels that he is tired because he drank a lot and suddenly pee on him, and Nina tries like this to get over him and give him medicine. While he is trying to, he holds her hand with a bug, and they are all surprised at what he is doing, and they keep watching. He walks like this, covered in lice, and as long as he did it, he goes into the forest and keeps wandering around in it alone. He hears voices coming from everywhere, and he knows that there are many mutants in the place. He comes home early, and the next day he wakes up. He does this, and Bella is on his own next to the lake and taking advantage of how he slept here, and he hears the sound of a boat like this. It is wrapped in the sea and is being used, and I find a lot of blood on a bug, and it cleans and runs around the house and sees everywhere such a lot of bad talk about mutants written on the walls. And when he reaches the house, he goes into the bathroom at all times and keeps cleaning himself, and he finds a feather like this on his head and learns that he ate a bird while he was unconscious. Then he goes out with his father, and they decide that they are going to look for themselves in the forest so that they might be able to find her, even though the police warned them that they should enter the forest alone. He asks his father what his feeling was when she started. She turns and shows her, and François assures him that he continues to love her and keep her because he was convinced that no matter how much she looks, she will still be there because he is his lover and his wife. And after a very long time of understanding them, in the woods, they cannot reach Anna, and they get into their car, and they keep turning around again and start playing her favorite song, and the volume can be louder. She hears and gets closer to them, but he is tired of them both. They both sleep in the car, and he spends all night in it, and in the morning he wakes up like this, and he has no luck that his hand has begun to change shape. and he has no luck that his dog is not there, and he goes down to look for him, and when he finds him, he sees him, he keeps running after something strange like this, and Baker walks after him and sees what is wrong with him. He sees a child in the shape of a chameleon trying to climb up into the tree. Suddenly, the man who flies comes and knocks him down to the ground. He recognizes Amal and is unable to move. The man is on him to kill him. He suddenly stops because he looks into Amal's eye and knows that he too is a mutant like him and is too early to kill them, and Amal prefers to vote for anyone. His father does not hear his voice like that and runs to catch up with him and tries to keep the flying man away from them. He takes Amal and runs away, and when they return the car, François repeats that they mean to go to the hospital to check on him, but Amal refuses. The first time he enters, he will know that he is transforming and will not leave him, and the two of them will fight together and be like that. There is a horse while they are walking, and François stops the car at the right time, and they realize that they have entered a horse riding school, and the police see the property of the place, and they learn from Julia that there is an attempt to attack the horses and kill many of them, and there is no hope, and she repeatedly helps them and takes them to her colleague's doctor and legalizes the injection because there is a dog bites him because François tells her that and does not give her a biography of the mutant they saw, and after they return home, he continues to behave exactly like a dog and no longer knows how to control himself. The next day, we see him in school. He stays in the science lab and does his test, and suddenly he sees that Nina is wearing a chain with a feather like it on it, the one who was exactly on his way, and suddenly approaches her and tries to encourage her to be healthy, and Nina prevents him and shouts with him, and the teacher gets upset and asks him to go back to his place. And then he remains sitting tensed from the sound of the oven, whose workers are moving, and he loses control and does this and keeps shouting and asks them to stop moving and making sound, and after school, he feels that he is not able to drive his bike because of the changes that are happening in his body, and Nina tries to get close to him and help him because he is making it difficult for her, and she asks him to go home with her, and they sit together for a while, and she gets up to make sandwiches like this, which they eat. Emil sees a dead bird in the refrigerator, and Nina explains to him that she found this bird in front of the door. After the party, she decided to take it so she could take the feather and make a chain with it. He knew at that time that he had not eaten the bird and that it had left in front of her house. He knew from Nina that she had not thrown it away so that she could donate it to the mutants so they could eat it. Then we see Amal going down to the lake and trying to fish with his bare hands, and she sees one of the neighbors like that. I remain very surprised, and he keeps looking for the man who is flying, and I find that he is trying to fly and hits himself, and Baker leaves his fish so that he can eat it, and when he gets to know him, he learns from him that he does not remember his name, and that he decided to call himself Fix, and I notice that Fix has all his body wounds because he is learning to fly, and it kills him that he gives him a good place to learn without getting hurt, and with his hands at the lake, he removes all the branches in the water so that they don't hurt him, and he clears the place for Fix so that he can learn comfortably without hurting himself, and he thanks Fix that he did all this for him and tries to help him. Then he tries to hope that he will bring his bike home and keeps falling every now and then. Baker leaves it in the woods and tells his father that it was stolen from him. Then François goes to the place where he works and finds out that the owner of the place made anti-transformation t-shirts. He feels something strange and remains upset, and Baker goes out and throws away the trash. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a shower and comes closer to see what is going on. There is a mutant in front of him and he tries to catch him, but François finds him tied with chains and is very afraid. He tries to guide him, and I find him at the same time. A mutant runs away from the place, and one of his co-workers comes and hits the mutant, and He learns from her that this mutant approached her. She is trying to protect him and hide here away from people. And she and François are trying to understand that he must hide so that no one can catch him and hold him to let him in, but he remains afraid of them and keeps running quickly and going outside, and then François sees a mutant running away and feels that it might be a curse. And Baker tries, meaning he runs after him and tries. He follows him and finds a big bear in front of him, and he keeps screaming in his face and quickly runs away from it. Then we see Emil at school, and he comes at mealtime and feels like this and eats that there is something in his horn. And he unpacks like this to see what is wrong with him. One of his teeth suddenly fell, and his classmates look very surprised at him. He explains that this is his son's year, and that it was bound to fall. After school, Baker goes to see Fix and finds that he is still learning to fly and keeps trying a lot to learn, and sits down to rest for a while. Baker hopes that he helps him clean the wound on his face, and learns from him that he had a very large beak. The doctors performed a major operation on him and removed him. And at night we see Julia François playing like this in the forest and trying to look for the cause and trying to hide every time they hear the sound of an infectious police car, and they remain afraid that someone will see them, and after a long time they are unable to do anything. And suddenly François sees a wheel of hope and is surprised at what has brought it here. When he returns home, he goes into the bathroom and finds that the drain in his bathtub is clogged, and he is early to clean it, and I find inside him a lot of claws and hair that looks strange, and he knows at that time that Emil is transforming. And the first time Emil returns home, he finds his father standing and waiting, and he faces him with life, and he tells him that he knew everything, but Emil, he refuses to admit anything, and he says that his father's words are wrong, and his father keeps putting pressure on him and preventing him from entering the house except when he is talking and trying to do so. He is trying to escape, but he does not know it because his father grabs him quickly and keeps hugging him tightly and trying to calm him down because he remains collapsed. In the next morning we see Emil eating his food. He's all just staying like this without any comment, and his father is trying to support him so that he doesn't feel anything, and he has the medications in his hands that he used to use to keep him calm and be able to control himself, and he keeps explaining to him how he's supposed to act so that no one detects him, and he asks him to cut his nails every day and let his hair down his cheek so he can hide it. He puts cotton in his cheek because his hearing is so strong that he might get upset, and try to reduce the issue a little so that he can live together. Then we see Emil trying to remove the many hairs that have grown all over his body, and then he goes out and talks to Nina on the phone, meaning he asks her to scream loudly. He is loud, and he remains happy because he can still hear her voice from a very far away. The next day he goes to see Fix and gets very sad for her because he finds him. It's over. He can no longer speak and do things, but there are sounds like birds, nothing more, and it is very difficult for him, and they hug each other tightly. And then he sees that Fix can still fly very well. He remains very happy while doing this, and then Emil goes to the place where his father works, and his father remains very annoyed and keeps making him upset when he comes in there, both fighting with each other, and suddenly Emil loses control, and they are on his father and tries to hurt him, and Biff then can no longer believe that he did this and was very hurting himself. He walks and finds Nina on the way, and she asks him that they should go for a walk together. After a while, they get very close to each other, and Nina discovers that Emil is a mutant, and she is no longer afraid of him. She gets closer to him, and then they both return to the festival that is at François' workplace, and they remain very happy, and the pigeons leave and stay. Apple is one of his colleagues, and he continues to annoy him and tells him that he saw him and Nin together, and that he knew the truth about him, and he keeps with him a device that detects mutants, and he keeps turning it on. He is very affected by it, and he cannot stand his voice, and he loses his nerves and gets very tired. Suddenly, he comes with the boy and is afraid and running, and Baker goes to hide and prefers the boy. He votes and talks to everyone present, and they read, meaning they bring their weapons and swallow the police, and they all go to catch him. Suddenly, Imal finds a dog and keeps frightening it to keep it away from him. He is afraid of the dog and runs from it, and they see people and they beat people like that on the dog instead and turn on the alarms everywhere. Amal is very afraid and keeps running fast. A lot of people keep running after him, and it seems like someone is going to shoot him, but Vex comes at that moment and takes the man away and throws him away and tries to protect Cal, and the police keep running after them both, and they try to escape from them, and they start to cross the lake. Suddenly a bullet comes for Vex, and he falls and dies and leans like that on him and hugs him and stays. He shouts, and then he gets up and continues running, not knowing where to go anymore. You reach the police and find Vex's body lying on the ground, and Amal has no traces, and they decide that they should catch him. This time, we see an old, transformed man walking in the city in the middle of the street, and army vehicles pass by him. And there are still a lot of them, and we are heading to the forest, and it is the second day. In the morning, we see that Amal is still hiding and eating any fruit found on the tree. Then at night, he repeats that he is sitting on the tree and starts making a very strange and terrifying sound, like an animal. Then there is a big storm in the whole area, and Amal tries to enter a cave to hide in, and he remains very afraid and unable to stand. Bear approaches him and threatens him, and he knows that this bear is still his mother, and he brings the two of them closer to each other, and his mother tells him that she loves him very much. And then she walks again and asks him to walk after her. And when he walks after her, he discovers that the place has very many mutants, and they are all living together happily in peace, away from humans. Remains very surprised by them, and suddenly he sees bombs being thrown from everywhere, and he knows that the army knew how to reach them, and they are all trying to escape and keep running, and the army is using a certain device that is very tiring, and they feel a very big shower in the place, and no one can bear it, and many of them fall to the ground and cannot continue, and the army is able to. He catches them all, except for the warrior girl. She is the only one who can escape, and uses the police station. She sees François and Emil sitting there, and François tries to get an email from where he is, and it happens that he says that he has been going through a long day, and that his friend is harassing him, and he wants to scare him, nothing more, and it will be over. He is on the release paper and is trying to hold the pen, but he cannot control himself and does not know how to go. The pen is broken, and the officer has one hand in his hand. The other is to go, and he is suspicious of him. Suddenly, his email turns, and his father is forced to hit the officer in order to escape him. He grabs the pen and reaches for the paper and takes his son and goes out and pours the paper to the man outside. He can get out of the name with Emil without anyone revealing it, and they get into the car and repeatedly leave the country and walk, and suddenly they meet the police, who discovered the matter and run after them, and François is determined that he will save his son and his father, and he will not let anyone take him, and he reaches the forest and opens the door for him and tells him that he escapes on his own initiative and gets out. And in the last scene with us in our movie, Emil runs in the forest and they sell out very happily, and our movie ends like this. Even if it is the first time you see us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe us, and follow us and see the greatness that comes with us. Oh, peace be upon you.